Hi, welcome to the FCCTV studio, located in Falls Church, Virginia. Today we're going to be showing you how to use our camera setup from start to finish. We have 3 JVC 890 camcorders that are connected to our control room right behind them, where they can be switched between for live or live-to-tape productions. And that's actually where we're going to need to start today with operating these cameras. When you walk into the control room, direct your attention to the large tower in the corner. Here you'll see lots of very tempting buttons and knobs, but for now I want you to ignore all of that and just look at the 3 horizontal racks labeled cameras 1, 2, and 3, and flip each switch into the on position to send power to the cameras. The cameras are labeled in order from left to right from the perspective of behind the cameras, so it may seem counterintuitive when looking at them from the studio when they're put up, but it makes sense in a production setting. From here you can go ahead and turn the cameras on using the power switches on the cameras themselves. When you get over to camera 1, you may notice something a bit different about it. The black brick on the back is different from cameras 2 and 3. That's the power converter for the camera, and it malfunctioned on camera 1, so we have to use a battery system instead. So before flipping the power switch for camera 1, go into the storage closet to your right and grab one of the large charged Anton Bauer battery packs from the second row of the battery cart and put it on the camera. Then switch it on. Next, go over to camera 3, unlock the wheels, grab the cord coming from the camera, and keep it in your hand as you move the camera toward your desired location. Being careful not to trip anyone with the cord or let it get snagged on anything, which could rip it from the camera or damage the cord. When you have your camera in position, lock one or more of its wheels again. Next, move the cable wide away from the main walkways as much as you can, and consider even taping it down to ensure nobody trips on it. To keep the cables healthy and undamaged, please avoid stepping on them or rolling chairs over them. Instead, please lift chairs and feet over the cords entirely. When you're done, repeat that whole process with the other 2 cameras. And in a situation where you only want to use one camera, we advise using camera 3 because it's the most easily accessible. Now that we have our cameras in position, let's learn how to operate them. First, you'll see the camera ask you to set the internal clock. You don't have to set it to the correct time and date. All you have to do is hit the middle play/pause button on the left side of the camera, and it'll go away. Now let's go through the viewfinder. At the top left, you'll see how much battery you have left, which you only have to worry about with camera 1. Under that is info about your SD cards, like how much record time you have left and which slot you place them in. Then there's resolution and frame rate. You can see we're at full HD 60i right now. Our audio levels are at the bottom left for when we have an external microphone plugged in. Our white balance color temperature to the right should be set at 3200 Kelvin in most circumstances. The gain and f-stop are above that and should only be set in the control room. Above that, you'll see the status of the ND filter if it's being used, and nothing if not. Above that is time and date, which is probably wrong unless you took the time to accurately set the internal clock. And in the very top right, you'll see time code, which we don't use yet in this studio. Finally, in the top middle of the screen, you'll either see STBY or PGM, which are short for standby and program. Program means that this camera is live in the switcher. Another way for you and your on-camera talent to know which camera is in program is to look at the tally light on the top of the monitor, which will shine red when that camera is in program. Camera operators in our studio really only usually need to worry about zoom, focus, and camera movements. Things like iris, white balance, gain, and shutter speed are all things handled in the control room, so the cameras should already really be ready to use under normal conditions. So we'll save those other settings for our advanced camera operating video. Let's talk about camera movements. You'll of course need to make sure all the wheels are unlocked, but when you do this, you may notice that there's a second set of locks right above the wheels. When pushed down, these lock the direction that the wheel is turned in. So if you have all the wheels locked to go in the same direction, you will be able to move your camera in a more exact, predictable direction. You can also move the camera up and down by pushing or pulling on the pedestal wheel. There is a locking mechanism to this as well, so if you can't seem to move it, you'll find that it's probably just locked. Remember to plan all your movements carefully to ensure you're managing cables and will not run into people or equipment, especially when there is more than one camera moving at a time. So this big weird looking button right here is how you zoom on these cameras. If you hit the right side, it'll zoom in, and the left side, it'll zoom out. And then this handle down here on the lower left side controls the focus. And since autofocus is disabled on these cameras, a good tip to getting focus is to zoom in all the way on your subject's eyes, get focus on their eyes, and then zoom back out to your desired framing. Now, getting focus like this can be risky in the middle of a production because there's a chance the switcher operator will switch to your camera right as you're starting to get your focus. But you can prevent this from happening by being in communication with your control staff through our headsets. To turn these headsets on, you'll go to the left side of the camera where you'll see the comms section. We've got talk, off, and level. Flip to the talk mode and you should be able to hear yourself talk in the earpiece and communicate back and forth between the other camera operators and the switcher operator. The microphone and earphones stay on so you can hear each other, but if the earphone is a little quiet or loud for you, you can change the volume by turning the level knob. Now that you know the basics of operating the cameras, you're just about ready to start filming. But before you do that, you'll need to decide where you want to save your footage. Do you want to record on the switcher, which will record whatever is in program at any given time, or do you want to record directly on the cameras themselves? Let's start with the switcher. So head into the control room to the control tower and find the recording panel. Put the SD card in its slot and the light next to it should light up green. And the light next to the record button should be red for a few seconds before turning green also. When it's green and steady like that, it means it's ready to record. If it doesn't turn green, that probably means you need to format your card, which we will cover in another video. If the light next to your SD card didn't light up at all after putting it in, that probably means you unknowingly had the switch on the side of the card switched to the lock position when it should be unlocked. When you're ready, hit the record button and the green light will start flashing, indicating that it's recording. When you're done recording and you want to take your SD card out, you first have to make sure you stopped recording, or else you will lose everything you just recorded. So to stop recording, hit the record button again and the light will turn back to red. When it goes to green again after a few seconds, that means the SD card is ready to be taken out, or is ready for another recording if you want. Let's take a moment to talk about the SD cards themselves. Each card has a speed rating for how much information it can receive at a time. With these cameras, you'll never go wrong with a Class 10 SD card. But if you bring a Class 6 card or even Class 4, you'll likely still get away with it, depending on the camera settings you're using. Each card should ideally have a capacity of at least 16 gigabytes, and you'll need anywhere between 1 to 4 cards, depending on how many sources you want to record from at a time. Say you want to record from all of the cameras individually plus the switcher. That would be 4 cards. You'll most likely have to format your cards, removing them of all their data to record on our cameras or switcher. So make sure you've backed up your files that are already on the card. Okay, back to recording. If you choose to go with the in-camera recording route, maybe because you want more flexibility in editing, you'll need to go to the right side of the camera, flip down these protective barriers, and put in your SD card. When that red light turns green, that means your SD card is ready to be recorded to. If it stays red or doesn't turn on at all, you'll have to go to the other side of the camera to format your card. So hit the menu button, use the arrow pad to direct to System on the Viewfinder, then go to Media, Format Media, and choose slot A or B depending on which slot you put it in. So as soon as you have your shot and your talent is ready, all you have to do now is press the record button on the camera. If you see that little red dot in the viewfinder, then you are successfully recording to your SD card. Keep in mind though that you will probably not get very good audio out of the cameras unless you plug in and set up your own external microphone, which we will teach you how to do in our advanced camera tutorials. If you want to get great audio, you can also just record it through the switcher with our lavalier setup. Okay, last up, teardown. Let's say you've recorded what you want to record and you're done using the studio. We expect you to leave it as you found it with our standard setup. So here's a checklist of what teardown is going to look like. We'll just quickly run through the ones we've covered in this video, saving the rest for the advanced video. First, remove the SD card from the camera, making sure you have stopped recording first. Then, starting with camera 1, move the cameras back into position, remembering to manage the cords as you go. The cords need to be wrapped neatly in a figure-8 pattern behind where the camera goes. Do not kink or force the cord into a position that it does not want to go naturally. This will damage the cord. When you're done wrapping the cord, move the camera in closer, lock the wheels while making sure the directional locks are unlocked, and the pedestal is also unlocked. Last, flip the camera's power switch off, and for camera 1, remove the battery and place it on a charger in the equipment closet. Repeat this process with the other 2 cameras. Next, put the furniture back the way you found it and make sure you've cleaned up any mess you've made in the studio. Now go into the control room and flip the camera racks off to stop sending power to them. If your switcher operator hasn't taken care of it yet, make sure you've stopped recording to the SD card in the recording panel and then take it out. And that's it. That is our basic camera training. It's a lot to remember, so I encourage all of our producers to schedule times with us to come and get some hands-on experience. See you next time. Bye-bye.